Welcome to lesson number 7. By now, you've been through 2 extensive trading psychology lessons. This one is also about psychology, but it's more to do with tips, tricks, lifestyle, and psychological rituals on how to get the best possible performance out of your brain. Some of the things that I'll be talking about today involve behavioral modification, the power of positive and negative reinforcement, your spiritual environment, very important this one, and we'll also go through meditation techniques, and I will mention brain entrainment too as one of the methods to get your mind into a desirable state. And I will say this again, do not skip over the psychology stuff because that would be much worse for your trading than skipping over the strategy lessons. Because strong psychology can cope with a mediocre strategy, but a weak psychology will make even the most successful strategies fail. So let's learn more about spiritual aspects of being an independent trader. We all remember the old image of 80s and 90s traders, the Wolf of Wall Street type characters, with big egos, messed up minds, drug addictions, and generally unstable personalities. However, with the advent of the electronic trading, the ease of pressing a button and making a trade has actually forced the present-day traders to become a lot more balanced. Successful independent traders today represent a picture of health, emotional balance, and psychological practices that have shaped their success as much as their ability to hone a strategy and manage their risk. Some are even professional athletes who have competed in the Olympics. In order to do what we do, we had to develop certain psychological rituals that keep us on track with that ironclad self-discipline that is really required to maintain the performance results day in, day out. And this is especially important for intraday traders due to the frequency of the setups that come along. Sometimes it's 3, 4, even 5 times in one day, and it's all too easy to just let your concentration and preparedness slip. One little mistake and you've wiped out your whole month's profits and then some. I really believe that the traders are the same as top athletes because the same amount of discipline is required to perform at the top level. In fact, like I said, most of us are athletes already. I myself am a bodybuilder and aspiring fitness competitor. And there's loads more examples like that with successful traders and generally with private money managers. And apart from physical fitness, there are psychological techniques to bring your mind into a calm state. And the first one is meditation. Some of you now might be thinking, meditation, how Hollywood of her. But really, meditation has been proven to have a multitude of positive outcomes. It's been proven to slow down the brain waves, and it allows us to modify our behaviors much faster. Another incredibly important aspect of meditation is that it helps develop self-control, which is essential. It's essential for traders. Meditation also changes your brain on a physiological level, increasing the amount of gray matter and boosting the areas for emotional intelligence, okay? So by meditating, you're actually working directly on your trading skills. And there are so many other positives associated with meditation. These are just some of them. So it increases your productivity, it increases your ability to focus and hold attention, it improves your memory, it also makes you more likely to kind of start thinking outside of the box in a more creative way. All very, very important for a successful trader's mindset. And you can start immediately. You can start if you don't want to do it yourself. You can use something like Headspace. It also comes in an app form. Like you have it on the internet, but you can actually download it and have it on your phone. And it is a guided meditation. So if you find it hard to know what to do, you can use Headspace to get you started. And I want to dispel some myths about meditation. For meditation, you really don't need to, chant in a weird language or wearing a robe or sitting in a lotus position saying Om. Okay, no weird stuff. It's simply sitting up and breathing in a relaxed manner. That's all that it is. And meditation is also not about keeping your mind completely empty. It's quite the opposite. You can let the mind roam, but meditation actually allows you to start observing your thought patterns in a very relaxed state, which leads to a lot more objectivity when it comes to your own behavior. And I like to pair my meditation with something called the isochronic tones. They are not that pleasant, but they are quite effective. Isochronic tones are a part of a brain entrainment technique. The way isochronic tones work is based around the same tone that is turned on and off. And you have to listen to them with headphones on. Brain entrainment is, when you do it this way, is only temporary, so you're not going to get like long-term effects. But it has been proven to increase performance across different skills if you do it frequently, day in, day out. Different wave frequencies do different things to the brain. Some of the three most important ones that I use are these three. So there's alpha waves. They induce a calm meditative state. Then you have the beta waves, which are shown to increase academic achievement. I use beta waves when I need to do something like write a new script for videos or finish a mundane task that I don't really like to do. But listening to beta waves, it helps me get there. Gamma waves improve general cognitive ability. I like to use Stephen Halpern's Alpha Waves album if you're into something more musical for the meditation. But when I'm working on something active, I will frequently listen to beta isochronic waves. And I get things done much faster with a better focus rather than sort of letting my mind wander around and then look at YouTube, look at Daily Mail nonsense, and before you know it, 3 hours have gone by and you're like, damn, I haven't done anything. So basically I procrastinate a lot less or not at all if I listen to isochronic waves. And you can actually find some free isochronic tones on YouTube with 8 hours long video, which has various tones. Alternatively, you can also get the album called Complete Isochronic Tones from Amazon. You can get it as a download and have it anywhere through your phone. Next, I want to talk about the behavioral modification techniques. I've used positive and negative reinforcement on myself and many others with great success. One of my popular techniques is making my traders who break the risk parameter rules do the Bart Simpson punishment. It involves writing about 50 to 100 lines per day of a particular sentence by hand for a whole week after they've broken the rule or forgotten an important part of the strategy. So I've had some traders who I've mentored over Skype, and when I told them to do the Bart Simpsoning, they would just sit down and like write it out like on the keyboard. But that's not the point. You have to associate a negative consequence. So you need to write out all the lines with your hand, because that's going to be uncomfortable enough for your brain to understand that there is a consequence, a negative consequence to your behavior. So I've had people write stuff like this: I will not move my stops. So remember, once you break a rule, you have to not just keep writing it that day, but the whole next week. So you remember that there's something that you're not supposed to be doing. Another one was this one: I will always remove my orders on the ladder. And then there's also the ever popular one: I will not do more than 3 trades per day, for the overtraders. And then this one's pretty popular too: I will remember to include the spread on my forex stops. That's a very long one. This technique works really well to associate your brain with a negative consequence of a particular action that you and you alone were responsible for. And most of my traders only get to make the same mistake twice before they have to endure the Bart Simpson punishment and write the lines. And they all hate me at the time when it happens, but I don't care, because each and every trader never makes the same mistake again, and each and every trader, 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, they all thank me for putting them onto the Bart Simpson punishment. If you've broken a serious rule that ended up making a huge dent in your P&L, there is an extra punishment. I make people do an extra half hour at the gym doing an exercise that they hate the most. Even if you've already been at the gym that day, if you run out of time, then you must do the exercise the next day before you start trading. There's a negative consequence of your actions. So there's no getting out of it. Likewise, much like negative reinforcement, I like to practice positive reinforcement as well, to give a trader something to look out for if they follow the rules. That might be a night out, or buying something small that you really wanted for a while. Like for me, it was a new pair of high-heeled shoes, or getting a full body massage, or maybe it's a day at a spa. Anything really pleasant that you enjoy doing. And the reason why positive negative reinforcement still works in adults is because no matter how old we are, deep down inside, we're all still children, especially when it comes to impulsive behaviors. And there was a famous marshmallow experiment that was done by a guy called Walter Mischel. He was a psychology professor at Stanford University. And the experiment involved a study on how children behave with delayed gratification. A child was given a choice of having 1 marshmallow right away, or to wait and then to receive 2 marshmallows later. They would then leave the child alone in the room for a while with the marshmallow, recording the child's reactions as they struggled to contain themselves to wait so that they could get those 2 more marshmallows. And obviously some children fare better than others. Those who had more ability to delay gratification went on to do vastly better at life as adults in general, excelling more at education, having better jobs, and generally further advancements in career in comparison to the children who exhibited little to no impulse control. So right now I'm going to show you a section of the repeated similar experiment.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have 2. But stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right.
Now, if you notice the faces that the kids are making, You might recognize yourself sitting in front of the charts,
and then I'll come back.
waiting for that setup to come along, waiting and waiting, and feeling your kind of skin crawl because you want to be in a trade and you want your profits and you haven't worked on your self-control just yet, but you're really eager to trade because it's a new skill and you want to try it out. And then eventually you press the button and you're like, no. So don't have the marshmallow, wait. And this is the reason why a lot of traders overtrade. Most people are unable to delay gratification for any extended periods of time. But we have to have enough impulse control to patiently wait for setups.
All right, so it's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay.
Look at this one. This one has no self-control whatsoever. It's like 2 marshmallows, don't care. Just one right now.
How'd you do? Did you do good? You did? Yeah. You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you to give you another one? Okay, now you can have both. You need them.
So self-control and the ability to delay gratification is also the reason why I insist on traders first starting to trade from 4-hour charts and daily charts before they move on to trade the smaller time frames. Because 4-hour and daily, they require you to wait. Those time frames naturally force discipline on you. And they also reassure you that after a while that nothing will be missed. You won't miss anything if you don't stare at the 5-minute chart every 30 seconds. Okay, it gives you reassurance that you're not missing out. Very important. The ability to walk away and do something else once you've placed the trade is a skill that is incredibly desirable and will take away much of the stress that traders associate when trading lower time frame charts. And there is a way to trade off lower time frames, but it certainly doesn't involve watching every single tick. Some people will naturally have a better impulse control, but for most, this is something that needs to be practiced day in and day out. I also have some good news for you. Impulse control gets better with time. The more you practice it, the more you'll be able to control yourself. So imagine having the discipline to make yourself do whatever you want. Exercise every day, finish tasks that we keep putting off, like doing accounts or tidying up the house. Self-discipline can help you achieve anything that you want. And finally, self-discipline, of course, always leads to positive trading results without a fail. While I'm on the subject of impulse control and all of us being children inside our heads, I also want to remind you to always remember to have self-compassion. I went through this already with you guys in the psychology lessons. Beating yourself up and exhibiting self-deprecating behavior really helps no one, and especially not you. The self-deprecating behavior is always a product of some kind of a self-limiting belief. So be very, very careful with those kind of thoughts and behaviors towards yourself. Okay, next, 4 stages of competence. Now this is where a lot of traders kind of lose the will to keep trading. They get to conscious incompetence and then they stop. So what are these? Okay, unconscious incompetence. The first one is when we start with something new that we've never done before. It can really be anything. It can be a new language, new instrument, trading, any skill, cooking, anything. At first you have no clue what you're doing, you make a lot of mistakes and you don't know how to fix them. But then as you start to learn more, let's say you learn to read candlestick charts and then you start seeing the patterns and then you start seeing the consolidation, suddenly you start using a strategy, and that brings you to the next stage, which is called conscious incompetence. So now you've been learning for a while and you know what to do, but somehow, let's say in trading, profits still elude you. You keep making the same stupid mistakes and getting really annoyed with yourself, wondering how come you miss things. But it's all a part of the 4 stages of competence. And then you get to the next stage. If you've been doing this for a couple of years, then you get to a stage of conscious competence. You now have your trading plan, you have a well thought out routine, you're doing the same thing day in, day out, you're starting to be consistently profitable, but it still takes a lot of effort to come up with the trading ideas that work. So you still make mistakes, but they're a lot less, and it's sort of working for you. And then finally, after years of doing this job, you come to the stage of unconscious competence, where it seems like all of your trading decisions are discretionary, the strategy, entries, and your risk management become second nature to you, and you look like a Buddhist monk trading to other people with endless amounts of patience that seems supernatural. Once you start going through any methodology, you will have to grow through these 4 steps of competence. But I wanted to make you aware of them so that you're not discouraged when you see yourself making mistakes. This is why we have journaling, okay? It is incredibly important to start journaling as soon as possible. In fact, journaling lesson is lesson number 10, but really I would recommend that you check out the journaling lesson as soon as possible. You can even do it immediately after this lesson before continuing with the strategy part. Okay, next, I wanted to address your spiritual environment. It is also something that is vastly overlooked, especially when your life starts to change as a result of a different status. When I say spiritual environment, it really has nothing to do with religion, okay? It has to do with the kind of people that you let into your own environment. Many people are not very selective when it comes to who comes into your home and who your apparent friends are, or your family even. You know, what kind of friends you have, is your partner supportive or not, etc., etc. And I frequently find this issue with younger traders. Usually they're still in their 20s, who still have kind of college friends. And usually the traders that I meet, they're very bright individuals, but then they have all these people who are kind of time wasters. They're like remnants of their old life. So, you know, here you are trying to do something amazing for your career and for your life. You're trying to change your habits, like from head to toe, inside out. And there will come a time when these people, the friends or family, they will sadly start to drag you down. Typical signs are people starting to tell you how you've changed, how you never really hang out with them anymore. Sometimes people start asking you for ridiculous amounts of money because you can afford it, as if that matters. So in short, when you start to change your lifestyle and your habits, your whole life starts to shift. And in the end of this transition process, it will seem like you're living in a completely different universe. I always try to surround myself with like-minded people, and I'm super careful who I spend my time with. Because it's my life, and I wanted to create a fertile ground form my new career as a trader, okay? I wouldn't have been able to do that without finding like-minded people and having a supportive partner. I used to be a full-time session musician, guitarist and a sax player, and I've performed with numerous established artists. But the music industry started to change, and I completely fell out of love with the whole standards of gigs. They just literally went down the pan. So I started learning about trading, and once I realized that that's something that I really enjoyed, I wanted to make a full-time career out of it, and I succeeded. But not before people around me mocked me, told me I'm insane, laughed at me. They told me I've imagined how like I'm gonna be this super trader or whatever. I also had people tell me, who the hell do you think you are? You're just a musician and you are like me. And you know, so I was like, that was a very revealing experience for me, because it really showed me that some of these people who I hung out with, they actually had no idea who I really was, because my real friends knew that I had an IQ of 144 and a photographic memory, and that for all of my life I've been doing seemingly impossible things. When I set my sights on something, there is nothing that can stop me, okay? And people can tell me that I'm insane all they want, but all of my life I've achieved everything that I wanted. As a very young person, I actually made it to the Yugoslavian Olympic gymnast team when everybody was saying that it's impossible. I became a musician, a very well-known musician who did quite well for herself for 15 years, 20 years. I always achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. But unfortunately, when you have superficial friends, they don't know stuff about you. And this whole process, when your life starts to change, it will show you incredible insights into who is really your friend. So the moral of this story is that if you surround yourself with people who are negative towards your dreams, you will find it difficult to ever achieve your dreams. So your spiritual environment is incredibly important. You can also think about it in this way. Even if you give an amazing farmer, like let's say you have the best farmer in the world, if you give him infertile soil, no matter how good a farmer they are, nothing will ever grow out of that ground, okay? But give him fertile ground and he will create an empire. And it's exactly the same with your spiritual environment. So pick people very carefully, because they are the key to achieving your goals, whatever those goals might be. Want to lose weight? Well, hanging out with an overweight friend will completely hinder you. Okay? So use some common sense. If you want to be a trader, if you want to be an entrepreneur, find people who are entrepreneurs. Find people with similar dreams. And some of you might get an idea that maybe you can change your friends the way they are now, so they come along the ride with you. But please remember that the only person that you can change is yourself. It is not your responsibility to change other people, because other people have to want to change themselves. Okay? Sadly, if your life starts to change as a result from a possible career change, your environment will drastically shift as well. The more you're aware of that, the easier will the transition be. For the final part of the video, I want to address some time scales for making the transition to the full-time trader, especially if you have a full-time job already. If you're a well-capitalized individual, this doesn't apply, because you have different options and presumably other sources of income and assets. But for the less fortunate ones, first things first. It will not happen within a month or two, and certainly not if you're only just starting out. Once you've had consistent results of making supplemental income for around 2 years, and yes, 2 years, both from swing trading and intraday, you can start to slowly transition to full-time, but only if you have enough savings or profit buffer to keep you going for another whole year. Because trying to suddenly trade for living and having to pay your bills is a whole another Pandora's box that can mess you up psychologically like nothing else. I had a guy write to me saying that he's been trying to pass top step trader combines for a few months now, but he's not profitable and he's never been profitable and he keeps failing. On top of that, he said to me that he's just lost his job and that his wife is pregnant. Like, that's a car crash waiting to happen. He was like begging me to take him on because, in his words, if I don't make this happen, my life is over. I didn't take him on because I told him to get another job and to spend time honing the trading, and that it's not going to happen for him anyways, that he needs to look at other options. One thing that I can tell you is if you are in a similar situation, that is not the time to start thinking how you'll suddenly become this super trader with amazing self-discipline in like a month when you've not even been able to successfully pass one single combine with like moderately difficult risk requirements. And trust me, TST combines, they are only moderately difficult. And then the game gets even tougher if you get to funded trader prep. So if you cannot pass the combine, you're certainly not going to be able to pass funded trader prep. But actually, compared to other prop trading companies, I've seen some of them that give virtually impossible daily risk limits. And then if you manage to squeeze through the first 2 months of live, they will then increase the daily limit by sort of 1.5 times. So let's say from $225, they suddenly give you $400. And they increase the max buying power to 2 contracts. But what good is that? You cannot trade those 2 contracts because all they've done is made your job even more difficult, because now you still can't trade the 2 contracts without blowing the daily risk limit. It's just impossible. So transitioning to a full-time trader is something that really should be done over a 3-year period, okay? How much capital to use? If you want to trade your own personal account, please, please, please only use 10% of your overall wealth. If you, for example, have a house that's worth $300,000 and you have a $200,000 mortgage on that house, and let's say that you also have $50,000 worth of savings, your net worth is really $150,000. So you should only be trading with $15,000 to begin with, okay? As much as it will be annoying to blow that, should that happen, it won't put a massive dent in your overall net worth. In any case, do what prop trading companies do. Scale up the buying power by starting on 1.5K. And then as you build profit, you can start increasing your funds until you reach the 10% of your overall wealth, and then keep trading that. So take it slowly, because haste makes waste, like my tattoo says. Or, if you will, less haste, more speed. However you want to put it, don't rush things. And let the transition happen painlessly and naturally. Sort your strategy out. Get solid confidence over a couple of years of trading, yours or my setups. That's what they're there for. Sort your psychology out, get your lifestyle on track, nail the risk management consistency, and only then will you become a full-time trader. And with that, I'm going to conclude this video on psychological rituals and behavioral modification. And I will see you next time for lesson number 8, when we continue with strategy and technical analysis techniques.